Welcome to this presentation about expository writing. As you can imagine, in your life, you will be required to produce numerous expository essays. In order to write those essays successfully, one of the most useful tips is to do research, and more research. After all that research, you now will be able to write or talk about a topic. Keep in mind that usually the author knows much more about the subject than he or she demonstrates in a particular essay, which means that only the most important and relevant information will be used. In our lives, we are surrounded by expository writing. Most of the writing that we encounter in our daily lives is expository. Business reports, memorandums, business talks, speeches. People are always trying to present something to us, and we are also regularly presenting ideas to other people. Whenever we write an academic essay, there are different organizational patterns that we can choose from in order to better structure our ideas. We're going to study each one in depth, and I will give an example so that you have a better understanding of each organizational pattern. The first one is narration. A narrative essay recreates an experience for a central purpose. An example of a narrative essay can be a sad moment in your life, like when your dog died. You can put that right away in the introduction. The day my dog died, I was devastated. And from that you can create your thesis and you can create your introduction. Then you can classify this story, this essay, in the most significant events leading to your dog's death, for example. Choose the 3 most significant events, describe them chronologically, 1 paragraph each. Obviously, you can think of more than 3, right? Just keep in mind that it is recommended to have at least 3 main ideas in a 5-paragraph essay. Your conclusion wouldn't really add anything to the story because people already know what happened. They will want to know how it happened, so the conclusion just will be a short summary of the event. The second type of organizational pattern is the description. A descriptive essay is the one where you can get more creative, so that's when it is normally associated with an artistic value, an artistic talent. One of the most important rules for a successful descriptive essay is to follow this famous saying: show, don't tell. For example, don't say he was scared. Say his heart started beating faster. He couldn't control his breathing. The noises surrounding him made him feel concerned about what was going on. So that way you're not saying he was scared, you show it. So one way to structure a descriptive essay in the 5-paragraph essay format is by using your senses. If you want to describe, your favorite place to be alone, you can start with how that place looks. So you can start with what you see, the colors, the objects, and everything that you can see and that you like about the place. Feature 2 can be what you hear. Even if you want to describe silence, then that's part of what you hear or what you don't hear. The noise of the birds and the wind and the music, whatever it is that you hear in your favorite place. And the third place you can choose, you don't need to use all 5 senses because the 5 senses don't necessarily apply to everything you want to describe. So the third place can be what you can touch. For example, if your favorite place to be is your bed, then you can describe how soft it is. But if your favorite place to be, it's maybe a green open area, you can also describe the smell of grass and the smell of water and the smell of dirt, which can also be very pleasant. The third one is the comparison and contrast essay. In this essay, as you can imagine, you have to choose 2 things and you need to contrast them. There are 2 ways to do this. One way is called the block method, and the number 2 is called the point-by-point method. Remember that in this comparison and contrast essay, you can focus on resemblances and differences of the 2 objects or the 2 people or the 2 things that you are comparing. Traditionally, comparison has to do with the things in which those 2 elements resemble, and contrast has to do with the differences. So, as I was saying, one way to compare and contrast is by using the block by block technique. If you do this pattern, then your first main idea will be everything about, for example, city versus the countryside. So block 1 can be everything about the city, block 2 can be everything about the countryside, and then you will have your conclusion. Remember, you have to have a position since the beginning, so it is recommendable that you're telling your reader beforehand which one you favor. I don't know, living in the city. So here, when you talk about the city, you would likely talk about the benefits of living in the city, and you will try to show how that's a better place to be. And in block 2, when you talk about the countryside, you talk about all the things the countryside lacks, and that's why it is not such a good place to be. That's in case you favor the city, and you can do exactly the other way around if you choose the countryside. The second way to organize the comparison and contrast essay is using the point-by-point technique. If you do that, you will have to compare and contrast, in this case, the city versus countryside regarding opportunities for education. There are more universities and schools, and they have a higher quality than in the countryside. Point 2 can be opportunities for having fun. In the city, there are bars, there are clubs, there are cinemas, there are restaurants, there are museums, there are many things that you can choose from. And number 3 can be regarding infrastructure like streets and underpasses and bridges. But that's one way. Or another way could be discussing, for example, hospitals. There are more hospitals in the city, much better medical options in case you live in the city. The fourth one is the definition essay. The definition essay, you choose a concept you have a personal interest in, and then you define it. You define it to your audience so that you can defend your position about the meaning of a word. Yes, for example, let's suppose that you want to define democracy. You say, well, democracy is not just casting a vote. Democracy is much more complicated. And then you choose 3 aspects that, in your opinion, are essential for democracy. Aspect 1, you need educated citizens. Aspect 2, you need institutions that are not corrupt and that can provide citizens with political options. And aspect 3 can be information and transparent information regarding the candidates and the parties and their proposals. That's the only way to have democracy. Obviously, you don't need to define only political things. You can define friendship, you can define love, you can define peace. And that way, just make sure you choose 3 essential aspects that you think that concept should have in order to be called that. Okay? The 5th example is exemplification. Normally, exemplification would work by giving real life examples to support your thesis. Let's say that you want to talk about quality education in the first world and why, if you want to pursue a major or a master's or a PhD, let's say you should go to Europe. Okay, so what you can do is to say, well, Europe education is cheaper, and you can give examples of European countries where going to college it's basically for free or the cost is very little. Number 2, the quality, how universities in Europe are prestigious and have a great reputation, and give examples, the top 3, the top 10, the top 5, I don't know, examples of actual universities with certifications and awards and the best rankings. Example 3 can be the actual infrastructure, and you give examples, specific universities that have the best labs, the best technology, the best green areas, the best buildings, etc. So as you can see, an exemplification essay, it has to have real life examples so that you can use them as evidence. The number 6 is the classification essay. You have to think of a group of things and then rank them according to a common standard. It helps whenever you want to talk about something complex, and it helps to classify it so that people can understand better its components or its the different ways something can be looked at. For example, you want to define friendship. Some people use the word friend lightly, and maybe with a classification essay you can show how the concept of friendship is not as simple. You can say there are 3 kinds of friends. Friends for a reason, which has to do with people you hang out with because it is convenient for you academically, professionally. I don't know, they are your neighbors, co-workers, classmates that you just hang out with because, well, you're there. Category 2 can be people that you meet and then there's a bond, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna be best friends for life. However, an appreciation grows. That could be the second category. People you meet during the holidays, or people you meet during the whole semester, and the relationship grows beyond just the academic area. And category number 3, let's say your real friends, the friends for life. We understand that it has to do with long-lasting friendships. That could be a good classification essay, a good example of that. The number 7 is the process essay. This one describes how something is done. So the process essay is very useful whenever you want to go step by step. For example, you can write an essay about how to cook, and then you may be wondering, how can I write an essay about cooking? Isn't that a recipe? Well, no, because the difference between a process essay about cooking, for example, and a recipe, you will have a position, you will have a reason why you want to explain people how to cook something. Maybe you want to teach people how to cook pasta in a more nutritious way, how to prepare sandwiches in a cheaper way, how to make cake without sugar. I don't know. You see, you have a position, you have something you want to show people how to do differently, or in a better way, or in a more efficient or innovative or convenient way. You show step 1, 2, 3. Of course, as usual, 3 is just recommendable, but there can be more. You can also talk about more serious stuff, such as how to be a good citizen, and then the 3 steps. How to be a good boyfriend or girlfriend, and then the steps to follow. How to be a good driver, so you can organize the steps that you would think would be required for a good driver. Finally, we have the cause and effect essay. This one, well, there are many ways to classify the cause and effect essay, as you can see here. You can think of an effect, I don't know, pollution, and then tell me the 3 causes of pollution. I don't know, factories, cars, and household garbage, which is everything that we generate at home that turns into garbage, and then it also pollutes. Another way you can go is by choosing the cause and the effects it causes. Let's go back again to, I don't know, cars. Cars cause pollution, traffic, and accidents. So you have 3 things right there that are negative, and it doesn't always have to be negative, okay? But 3 things right there, and then you present your thesis will have to do in this case with the disadvantages or the problems of using cars every time, everywhere in our cities nowadays. The third one can be the chain reaction. I can say, for example, the first cause could be cars. Driving cars generates pollution. Pollution causes diseases. Diseases cause social issues. I mean, you have sick people, then in terms of the community and the city, there can be a complete breakdown in the medical services, for example. That way you create a chain reaction. So these are 3 ways to write a cause and effect essay. Finally, the last rhetorical pattern is the argument essay. This is the easiest one because this is the one we normally do. Normally, whenever a teacher asks you to write a 5-paragraph essay, we go straight to the argument essay. Why? Well, because you basically present what you believe in and 3 reasons why you support that. So as you can see, it's pretty standard, and it's also what we unconsciously do normally. However, now you know that that's not the only way to go. Depending on what you want to write about, there are other ways to go. You can write a description, you can write a definition essay, classification essay that more successfully helps you send your message across.